Hello, Aubrey. I'm excited to be on video today and audio. How are you?
Yes, great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I'm happy that it's summer. It's great. It's great.
I know, so fun. And one of the best things about summer is often people have a little bit more time to read a book. What
Yes.
about you, Lindsay? Have you read any good books lately?
Yeah. Well, I just started reading a book by someone we interviewed on the show. His publicist sent me the book. And so I
Cool.
wanted to read it.
Yeah.
It's something like The Habit Mechanic or something like that. So Dr. John Finn was on the show and he talks all about, neuroscience, habits, and, habit loops and making sure we do the right things in life.
Ooh,
So,
interesting. Oh.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
as much as I would love to just talk about books the whole episode, the reason I asked you that is we're talking about homographs today,
Yes.
and read is one. So, I asked you, have you read any good books? And the word read in past tense and read is spelled the same. So,
Yes.
there's some
Yeah.
really complicated homographs. Some are a little easier. You get used to them as you read and hear English spoken. Some can really throw off your pronunciation. So we're
Yeah.
going to dive into that today. It's going to be really interesting.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's make sure our listeners know what is a homograph, because I think the average person, even an average native speaker, wouldn't know what that is, right? They think not, maybe
What
I
does
heard
that
that
mean?
in middle school, but I don't know, right? So
Yeah,
what is it,
exactly.
Aubrey?
Not something we talk about all the
No.
time, right? For sure. So homographs are words that are spelled the same, but have a different meaning and different pronunciation.
Yes.
So this can be really tricky, like red, read, bow, bow,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Lots of words where they are spelled the same. So when you're reading along, you might think you would say them the same, but they're pronounced differently and they have different meanings.
I love that we're talking about this because the term homographs, we don't care as much, right? We care about these words and how, honestly, how they can trip us up, and they trip up native speakers too.
Oh
I
yeah.
get tripped up on these sometimes. I'll read the thing. I'm like, which one is it?
Yes, you
So
have to
this is
stop
so
and
good.
figure out the context before you know
Yes.
which one it's supposed to be sometimes, for
Yes.
sure.
So
I've
good.
definitely messed up read and read where I'm reading along and I'll say read. Oh, nope, that's past tense. Okay, fix myself.
I know. So, guys, don't worry. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
great example today of a skill that everyone struggles with, but we're going to show you some of the most common ones today, right, Aubrey? And make sure you
Yes.
get that shortcut to success, to connection.
Exactly. Yes, this comes up all the time. In fact, it came up in one of my live group classes just the other day where students kept saying objection for the word objection. And I realized
Ah,
it's because they're more familiar with the word object,
object.
the
Yeah.
noun, but there's also the verb object and
Right.
the noun objection. And they're so object and object, homograph, spelled the same, pronounced just a little bit differently, totally different meanings. And as you're reading along, you might assume it's one, but it's the other. So we had a really interesting conversation about it, actually.
I love that. I love that that came up in one of our live group classes. Guys, by the way, if you're interested in our live group classes, go over to allearsenglish.com/class, CLASS. And what do they get for the first 2 weeks, Aubrey, when they join the unlimited speaking classes?
Yes, you get unlimited free classes, guys. You can be in there as much as you have time for. Check it out and decide if you want to subscribe. Of course, most students do. They're really fun classes with us, the All Ears English team, and lots of other native speakers at your English level who are working in English and trying to improve their English.
Yeah, it's so good, guys. So your first 2 weeks are free. You sign up at allearsenglish.com/class. So let's go into, are we going into the first one today, Aubrey? One of them?
Yes, exactly. So we talked about object and object,
Yep.
and there are so many more, but we are highlighting the most common ones here. So,
Yes.
first of all, we have close, the verb,
Oh my
and
gosh.
then close, the adjective, spelled exactly the same. The first one, that S makes a Z sound. So it
Mhm.
sounds like a totally different word, but when you're reading along, they look the same. They're spelled the same.
Right. So some examples, guys. Can you please close the door? Right. That is the verb. So that's the Z sound, not the S sound.
Yes,
Right. I mean,
exactly. Close the
mhm.
door. There's a draft.
Right. Close the door. Close the door. Good. Oh, I love this next one. Now we're going over to the adjective, right, Aubrey?
Yes, exactly. And we love the phrase, he's a close talker. This comes from Seinfeld, the show, if you haven't seen it, where someone stands a little too close to you when they speak. So there's that adjective
I love
meaning
it.
near.
Yeah. Are you a regular watcher of Seinfeld, or were you a regular watcher of Seinfeld?
I wasn't. When it was on, I was in college and very busy, so
Oh.
I didn't see it. And I haven't actually gone back. So I've seen highlights here and there, episodes here and there. I really should go back and just watch the whole season, the whole series.
It's just funny. It's timelessly funny. Michelle references that show a lot on this show, right?
Nice.
Because and the Close Talker is a classic episode. If you do want to find that episode, because native speakers, honestly, guys, they talk about that episode. Okay, they refer to it all the time. That would be a great episode idea, Aubrey, for us to do an episode on sitcom episodes that people refer to in English all the time.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because often, if you're part of a conversation and natives quote a sitcom episode or start chatting about one, because there are some highlights for sure, you want to be in on the know. You want to know what they're talking about, what they're referring to, without having to ask, if at all possible. So that would be really fun for us to do.
Because that just builds connection, guys. And it's connection, not perfection, is our vision for you guys. Guys, go to YouTube if you want to find that Close Talker Seinfeld episode. Good stuff. Okay.
Awesome.
What else,
So a couple other little examples, right? Of course, she's standing close to me, but we also use this word as an idiom to say, I feel close to her. This has nothing to do with proximity, with how near you are someone.
Right.
It is how you feel about them. If you feel bonded, if you have a close relationship, we also use this word to talk about how close you feel to someone.
Yes, I love that. Feel close. And that's very common. Natives use that all the time, right, Aubrey?
Yes.
Super common. Yes, I love it.
Much more often than saying, I really like her, I care about her, I would say, I feel close to her.
Yeah. We like to be able to talk about relationships with different words, right? Different ways to say it. So that is a good one. So guys, I hope you're writing these down. Do we have a role play to show our listeners where this shows up?
Yes, we're going to do a little mini role play after each of these examples. So let's just dive in. Lindsay and I work together and we're talking about a sales deal.
Here we go.
All right. Were you able to close that deal you were telling me about?
Oh, not yet, but we're so close.
Nice. Exactly. So just the tiniest bit of pronunciation different, spelled the same, totally different meaning. And this would happen a lot where you use them one after another like that.
Well, because these words are so common. These two words, close and close, so common in English, guys. So remember this as one of your core takeaways today. Close and close. Aubrey, are we ready to go into the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. So this one is led, the noun, and lead, the verb, spelled exactly the same, L-E-A-D.
Yes.
Totally different meaning, very different pronunciation.
Oh my gosh, native speakers have all kinds of problems with this word lead, because I know in the past tense and the present perfect, people get confused about how to spell it as well.
Yes.
So that's for another day, but yeah, let's get into this now. Here we go.
Yes. Okay. So lead is the chemical symbol is Pb, which is always a good trivia question. What's the chemical symbol for lead?
Well, that's the one you asked me, isn't it? In our trivia last year.
Yes. You remember that? Exactly. On one of our group conversations. That was so fun. But so you would say like, my pencil is out of lead, or this door frame is made of lead, right? I remember I had a friend named Elke in the Netherlands when I was living in Belgium, and she couldn't think of this word in English. She was trying to describe it, and she said, on the chemical chart, it's Pb. And luckily I knew that. So I was like, oh, lead.
You knew it. I love it. And guys, there is something important to reference about lead, right? So in the Connected Communicator online course, we go up to Flint, Michigan, right? And we interview locals who have been affected by that crisis. Aubrey, are you familiar with what's been going on in Flint?
Yes, somewhat, right? There are a lot of people who are suffering from the long-term effects of lead poisoning, mostly due to chemicals in their water. And especially in Flint, the big issue is that corporations were aware of this, and because it was too expensive to fix, maybe did nothing. And now, people have terrible health, people are dying, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, I sat in people's houses and chatted with them, and some of these people are not taking shower. They can't use their showers. So they have to find a shower in another way. They can't, because they'll immediately develop a rash. So it's not just long-term. Yes, it's long-term, which is more dangerous, but right away you come out with a rash. And this is happening in the US, in a city that used to be in a boom because of, the car industry, but it's come down quite a bit. So guys, if you're interested in that, check out our Connected Communicator course. We do a whole module on the Rust Belt. Super interesting and important to know about that issue, Aubrey.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So interesting. So let's jump to lead, right? We have the verb, and you're right. This is a little tricky with the past tense because it's spelled differently. It's an irregular
Yes.
past participle, but
Yes.
even in present tense, it's tricky because you have the other word led. So for example, you might say, I want her to lead the team. This is a verb that comes up all the time in business English because we're often leaders. We're put in leadership positions and we use that verb needing to lead others.
Oh yeah, we talk about leadership all the time in our on our podcast and our courses, guys. We love talking about leadership. So lead, and then the next example is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Common expression, right, Aubrey?
Yes, a really common expression, just meaning like you can give someone all the tools they need, but you can't force them to do anything, change, do any kind of action, right? It doesn't actually have anything to do with horses. It's about us as people and our tendency to, you can't force anyone to do anything. They have to choose it for themselves.
Yeah, like if you have a friend who wants to be in good shape, but they're out of shape and they're always on the couch, you can try to show them what to do and set them up. You can book them classes and all these things.
Buy them a gym membership.
Yeah, exactly.
Nope.
But if they stay on the couch, you can't do anything about it. So that's a really common expression, guys. Love it.
Yeah, so fun. Let's do another mini role play with these.
Okay.
I'll start us.
Okay.
You really have a lead foot today.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I like to be in the lead whenever I'm driving.
Nice. Okay. So we're both in a car and Lindsay's driving quite fast. So I'm using this idiom lead foot. This is another place where you'll see that word lead. Yes. And it means like heavy foot, like you're pressing down on the accelerator. You're just means you're driving really fast, right?
Yeah. For sure. And then I said, I like to be in the lead, right? To be in the lead whenever I'm driving. So different word, guys. What is something we have to let our listeners know about these idioms?
Yes, this is interesting. We've mentioned before on the podcast how idioms have to be used word for word, but this came up again in our live group classes. We had taught the expression pedal to the metal, which also means to go fast, right? To push the accelerator down to the floor on a car. And a student changed it and said, I'm pedaling to the metal. And they changed the noun pedal to the verb pedaling, thinking, oh, this is the same meaning. This will mean the same thing. Unfortunately, no, right? The meaning changes because it's idiomatic. You have to use it word for word. You have to say lead foot or pedal to the metal. We can't change them, unfortunately.
Well, good for that student for trying. That's how we get to connection. And that's actually how we learn, right, Aubrey? By making those mistakes and then getting corrected.
Yes, so true. This is Nightsay. You've probably met her, one of our amazing live group class students. And she does, as soon as we teach an idiom, as soon as we use phrases, she's trying to use them. All our students are like, this is the opportunity to practice and get corrected if needed. So I'm going to try, I'm going to use them and then find out, like, is this right?
I love that. Okay, Aubrey, should we go into the next one?
Yes, this next one is tear, the noun, like a tear when you cry that runs down your face. Or tear, which can be a noun and a verb, right? We have a tear in someone's clothing, or the verb to tear something, meaning to separate, especially with like paper or fabric or things that separate easily.
Oh my gosh. This is another good one that we encounter all the time as native speakers, and it can be tricky. I have to do a double take every time I read these words, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to figure out the context before you know how to pronounce them because they're spelled the same.
Exactly. So guys, this is another reason why when you're reading, when you're speaking, think about the context, right? Don't just go right to each word individually.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So let's do some examples. For the noun, there is a tear in your shirt. For the verb, oh, did you tear the paper? Yes. And then a really fun idiom, right, Lindsay?
Yes. Okay. Oh, I love this one. To be on a tear. Is that the one you mean? So the team has been on a tear this week. I think you might use this a lot. I don't use this as much, but I like it. Yeah. It sounds cool to me. I'm going to start using it now.
You should. Yeah, I do use this a lot and I hear it quite a bit more and more. I feel like it's sort of trending.
Oh, it's trending. It's trending. Yeah. So. Another episode idea, by the way.
Yes, exactly. Right. So this means great success over a period of time. I hear this a lot on the news talking about sports teams, right? To say like that team's been on a tear, and that means they're winning games. They've had success over a period of time.
Yeah, I could see that on the local news, you know what I mean? Covering the
Totally.
local baseball team or softball team or something. They're on a tear, right? Next time they're playing the next county or something, right? I love it. So
Exactly.
good.
Right. And I say it myself. If I'm doing something really well, like if my kids are eating what I cook several days in a
I'm
row,
on
I'll
a
say like,
tear.
oh man, I'm on a tear. It's just, things are going really well.
All right, then let's go over to, crying, right?
Yes.
So
The
what is this?
tear. So you
Mhm.
could say, I could see a tear running down his cheek. And we have a
Yes.
fun idiom here too to call something like a movie a tear jerker. What does that
Mhm.
mean, Lindsay?
Oh, it's something that makes you cry, right? A movie that makes you cry. It's a tearjerker. Do you tend to cry in movies, Aubrey? Are you that type, or
Yes, totally.
yeah?
I do.
Okay.
I cry all the time. I recently saw the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did you see that? It was so
Oh, I've
good.
heard about that. I missed it though.
It's a little bizarre. It might still be in theaters or it might be on streaming soon. I
Okay.
loved it. Jessica loved it. It's very unique. But I sobbed, and it's not really meant to be sad, maybe, but there was this really touching relationship between a mother and a daughter that just made me, it was
Oh,
a real
yeah.
tearjerker for me.
It just hit all the notes, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just certain things can trigger us for sure. I love that. So good. So Tearjerker, guys, is a movie that makes you cry. Again, very self-explanatory. Do we have a
Mhm.
role play, Aubrey, here?
Yes. And
Okay.
this, we're talking about a sports injury. So I'll start
Yes.
us out. I hear you have some kind of muscle tear.
Oh, yes. I tore my hamstring.
Oh, sorry to hear it. That sounds miserable.
It really hurt. I definitely shed a tear or two.
Nice. And
Yeah.
this is very accurate. I've been playing volleyball where someone will tear a muscle or get injured, and it'll make you cry, just the pain and trying to control,
Oh,
right? So that's
no.
pretty
Yes.
accurate.
Yeah.
Sports injuries can also be tear jerkers.
Oh, they're the worst. Yeah, for sure. You can't help it. You can't like, there's also for me when I cry, there's an element sometimes of fear. Like I'm afraid if I fall, I might cry or something because I'm afraid. Like I get scared for a minute. Right. And then,
Hmm.
yeah. So,
Yeah. But this is actually an interesting phrasal verb to say shed tears. This
right.
is very native. Instead of saying I cried or I had tears, however you would say it, we use
Yeah.
that phrasal verb and say I shed a tear or I shed tears. Usually we have the I shed a tear or two.
Yeah, guys, for connection, think about how much more interesting it is to say, I definitely shed a tear or two, as opposed to I definitely cried. The second one is fine, but you're going to connect more by being more unique with your language.
For sure. It's just interesting, right?
Yes. Yes. I love it. All right. Do we have time for one more?
Yes, really quick.
Okay.
This is interesting because we talked about the word minutia in a recent episode,
Mm,
1765. So if you
mhm.
guys missed it, go check that one out. It was called Don't Split Hairs with Outdated English Idioms.
Right.
And that's sort of coming up here because we're talking about the noun minute,
Yeah.
or rather that's this I've switched
Minute.
that. The noun minute and the
Yeah.
adjective minute. See, it just happened to me there because they're spelled
See,
the same.
we get
So
confused. We do. We
which
get
one am I
confused.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And so for the noun, right, we'll say, I need a minute. And this is
Yep.
a fun phrase because it doesn't mean you actually need a minute. We talked about this recently. It actually probably means you need a little bit of time, probably like 10
Yes.
minutes at least.
Yeah, 10 minutes, whatever you're doing in the context of what you're doing, right? So I need a minute, that's the noun. And then I don't worry about the minute details, right? That would be the adjective. So
Yeah,
minute details, the minutia, right, Aubrey?
exactly. Everything's small, unimportant. We use this adjective minute. But again, homograph, they're spelled exactly the same. So
Yes.
just like I just switched them, pronouncing them, it's really tricky.
Yeah, I love it. So good. So good. And if you guys want to find that episode, again, that is it. That's the one where we taught minutia, right? So
Yep,
17. Okay,
exactly.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Go back and find that one, 1765. Let's do a quick role play, Aubrey.
All right,
Here we
let's do
go.
it.
All right, ready to go?
I need a minute or two to get ready.
You look great. Stop worrying about all the minute details.
I love that.
Oh.
That's totally something I would say to someone. I'm ready to go. And they're like, I'm still doing my makeup. And I'm like, let's not worry about the minute details, right? We're
I would
just
say
going
that
to
too.
play volleyball.
Yeah, I would say that too. I definitely don't put on makeup very much. So I would be in the same camp as you, Aubrey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. In the same camp. We say
That's a
that a
good one.
lot, meaning like we're similar. We have that in common.
Yep, that's a great one. Another good one to write down for
So
another
many good
episode.
idioms today on
I
top of the
know
homographs.
so many good ones. Guys, hit follow on this podcast if you love these ideas and you want to catch these upcoming episodes. Aubrey, what is the takeaway today?
Yes, homographs, guys, are one of the main things that make English pronunciation so difficult. Even natives make these mistakes, like we were saying. Today's episode really highlights some of the most common ones. And beyond that, it's just a matter of understanding the context, paying attention to the context so you know which of these to use, because this really can be a potential roadblock.
Yeah, I mean, I really think this is a great episode, guys, for connection. If you're at that upper intermediate level, this is your next kind of benchmark to hit these words, right? Because these even confuse native speakers. If you can nail these, you're going to feel super confident with your English. So don't put it aside. Go back, listen again, and get this right. Good stuff.
Yes. And it's such a good example of, what we're always saying, connection, not perfection.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes with them. Natives make mistakes with them. So it is important to be aware of them and, make the effort to get them right. But of course, don't stress about making mistakes. It's going to happen. It just happened to me in the episode.
There you go. It happens.
Totally.
All right, Aubrey, this has been fun. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.